Title: The Garden of Ashes, a story of dislove and betrayal in 3 acts. Characters: Eleanor, Ellie, Hayes. A talented, sensitive, and passionate artist with a heart that yearns for the truth. Dad: Julian Vance. Ellie's husband, a charismatic and ambitious architect with a facade of perfection. Ava Sterling. Ellie's best friend since childhood, a sophisticated interior designer. Ticada y aparentemente leal. Ethan Miller. A close friend of Ellie, an honest and observant musician who has always felt something for her. Seraphina Blackwood. A mysterious woman from Julie's past, Anne, whose reappearance unearths secrets. Act I: The Flourishing Garden of Illusion. The life of Eleanor Hayes was a vibrant canvas, brushstrokes of love and creativity dancing in harmony. Her marriage, Onio with Julian Vance, an architect whose ingenuity sculpted buildings as impressive as his smile, was the central axis of her universe. Her home, an old house with a flourishing garden that Elhurst Place. He carefully tended it. It was the sanctuary of his happiness. And by his side, always present, was Ava Sterling, his childhood friend, confidante and companion of countless shared dreams. Julian, with his overwhelming charm, seemed to adore her. He praised her art, supported her projects, and together they built a life that in the eyes of everyone was the personification of success and happiness. The scenes with friends, Ellie's exhibitions, occasional trips to exotic places, everything seemed like a modern fairy tale. Ava, for her part, was a constant presence. She celebrated the achievements of Ellie with enthusiasm and offered her a shoulder in the rare moments of doubt. Her advice on art and life was always well received, and Ellie deeply valued their friendship, a bond that she believed indestructible, forged in years of shared laughter and whispered secrets. However, beneath the shiny surface, small cracks began to appear, imperceptible at first, like fine lines in a crystal vase. Julian was spending more and more time at work. His calls were becoming short, and his explanations vague. His eyes, before full of a palpable admiration towards Ellie, sometimes they seemed distracted, focused on an invisible point beyond her. Ellie, absorbed in her art and fully trusting the man she loved, tried not to pay attention to these subtle signals. He attributed them to work stress, to the pressures of a demanding career. He wanted to believe that his garden continued to flourish, intact and immaculate. Ethan Miller, a musician who knew Ellie since her art student days, observed from a distance. She had always felt a deep admiration for Ellie's sensitivity and talent, and although she respected her marriage, not I could perceive the growing coldness in Ellie and Julian's relationship. Their chance encounters often ended in meaningful conversations, where Ethan's honesty offered there was a silent contrast with Julian's apparent unconcern. One day, Ellie found a message on Julian's phone, an unknown name, S, and a short text. "I can't wait for the viz. Ernest." When asked, Julian downplayed the message, saying it was a client with an unusual name. Ellie wanted to believe him, but a seed of doubt had been planted in her heart, a small he weeds bad grass in his garden of illusions. Act 2: The Thorns of Suspicion. The seed of doubt began to take root, fueled by Julian's prolonged absences, his evasiveness, and a recent feeling of emptiness in the home that before overflowed with love. Ellie found herself increasingly alone. Her art, before a comfort, now reflected the unease that overwhelmed her. Without actively searching, during the tests, Ellie began to notice small details that she had previously overlooked: an unfamiliar perfume on Julian's jacket, a phone call abruptly interrupted when she entered the commune room, a credit card with charges in places he had not mentioned. Each detail was a thorn that pierced his heart, tearing the fabric of his trust. In this period, with increasing anguish, Ellie relied more on Ava. Her friend listened attentively, offered words of comfort, and rationalized Julian's behavior, suggesting that Ellie was being dempulas propus, too sensitive or insecure. Ava's apparent empathy seemed like a balm for Ellie's wounded soul, further strengthening the confidence she had in her friend. However, Ethan, with his sharp perk option, he saw beyond the facades. In a frank conversation with Ellie, although careful not to cross boundaries, he hinted that perhaps not everything was what it seemed. He reminded her of the importance of trusting in his instincts and not ignoring the signals that his heart sent him. His words resonated in Ellie, although she still resisted believing that her marriage, the basis of her happiness, could be from muttering. One day, while cleaning Julian's study, Ellie found a drawing, not of a building but of a garden very similar to hers, but with a gazebo that she never had. He saw it. In the sketch, under the gazebo, there were two figures embracing. A shiver ran through his body. When he asked Julian, he was evasive, saying that it was an old conceptual project, but the familiarity of the garden deeply disturbed her. The truth, however, came from an unexpected source. Seraphina Blackwood, an elegant woman with a piercing gaze, presented herself in Ellie's gallery during an exhibition. He claimed to have known Julian for years, since before his marriage to Ellie. His casual comments about Julian's tastes, his favorite places, and certain intimate details sowed a frozen confusion in Ellie's mind. After Seraphina's departure, Ellie confronted Julian with what she had heard. For the first time, the facade de Julian began to crack. His denial wavered, his eyes avoided Ellie's, and in his silence, Ellie read a truth that chilled her to the bone. Act 3. The Garden of Ashes. The Verdad, when it was finally revealed in all its rawness, it was more devastating than Ellie had ever imagined. Julian had not only been deceiving her, but he had been doing it with his major friend Ava. The S in the message was not a client, but Seraphina, a lover from the past who had returned to further complicate the web of deceit. The garden in the sketch was a secret place that Julian and Ava shared, a sanctuary of their betrayal built on Ellie's trust. Ellie's world shattered. The garden she had so lovingly cared for withered in an instant. Sus vibrant flowers turned to ashes. The man to whom she had given her heart, and the friend in whom she had confided her secrets, had stabbed her in the back. The pain was unbearable. That constant punching that left her breathless. The confrontation with Julian was heartbreaking. His excuses sounded hollow, his tears fake. Ellie felt how the love she once felt for him was... It turned into a cold indifference, sprinkled with a deep resentment. With Ava, the disappointment was even more bitter. The betrayal of her friend not only broke her heart, but also shattered the IMA, from a friendship that she believed to be eternal. In the midst of her pain, Ellie found unexpected comfort in Ethan. His honest friendship and unconditional support were a beacon in her darkness. Ethan did not try minimize her pain, but simply was there, offering a listening ear and a constant presence. Slowly, with his help, Ellie began to pick up the pieces of her shattered life. Ellie's decision was firm. She couldn't continue living in the garden of ashes that Julian and Ava had created. She requested a divorce and began the painful process of separating her life from Julian's. He also cut off all contact with Ava, unable to forgive her betrayal. The road to healing was long and arduous. Ellie took refuge in her art, pouring her pain, anger, and the incipient "I have hope" that began to sprout inside. Slowly, he found a new voice in his art, a deeper and more authentic expression, born from the experience of heartbreak and betrayal. One day, while working in her garden, now replanted with new flowers, Ellie received a letter from Seraphina. In it, Seraphina explained her past with Julian and expressed her regret for what his reappearance had caused. Although the letter did not erase the past, it offered Ellie a different perspective, a more complete understanding of the complex network of relationships that had hurt her. The end of Ellie's story was not a return to the blossoming garden of illusion, but the creation of a new garden, one built on truth, resilience, and hope. She learned that el desamor y la traición, aunque dolorosos, podían ser catalizadores para el crecimiento personal y el descubrimiento de una fuerza interior que nunca supo que poseía. Y aunque las cicatrices del pasado would always remain, but would no longer define their future. Ellie, the artist whose garden had turned to ashes, finally began to flourish again, with her own roots, strong and independent. And